bigger question for the U.S. as well is, what is our longer-term strategy? I mean, it just seems like, and for this administration as well, it's, where are we going in the Middle East? What do we expect to get out of this? We've been going now through the experience in Syria for these short-term solutions to longer-term problems. I don't know what the end game is. I don't know if anybody knows whether we're talking about this, Syria, and of course our relationships with other countries in the Middle East, what the ultimate solution is going to be, and I think that's the bigger question.
Well, let me talk short-term, real short-term, Carl. If you were back in the White House, how would you advise the president? Should he sit down, basically a gesture, it's obviously not a negotiation, but a gesture welcoming him and saying we also want it? Or would you say no? And if not, how do you test their seriousness?
Yeah, look, no, don't sit down with him. I mean, first of all, look, he told a bald-faced lie in that interview. Right. We don't have a nuclear, we'll never develop a nuclear bomb. Who's he kidding? Take a look at his piece yesterday in the Washington Post. 3 times he denounces international terrorism and extremism. This is the government that is underwriting Hezbollah in the Middle East. He talks about, oh, my government is ready to facilitate dialogue between the Syrian government and the opposition. This is the government that is flying arms into the Syrian regime, and revolutionary guards from Iran are fighting alongside the Syrian regime's forces. So who is he kidding? You're right, he's charming and subtle, but he is a charming and subtle thug, just like his predecessor was an uncharming, unsubtle thug.
Congressman Kucinich, and I guess part of the question would be, perhaps because of the sanctions, I don't think it's because they've turned over a new leaf, that the Iranians might want a new relationship, and perhaps, if you test them, might be willing to give up stuff.
Which is the reason why we should be talking to them. I mean, it's not constructive to try to create a cartoon version of whoever their leaders happens to be, to call him a thug when he's making an initiative to open communications with the United States. I think it's better, as a matter of course, you better talk to people before you think about bombing them, because maybe you won't have to get to aggression. And we need to take a different approach. We could use this as an opportunity not only to ask Iran to put aside its nuclear technology, but to look at our own policies and work towards nuclear abolition. When you look at that story yesterday, Chris, about how a plane, disintegrated in air and just about let loose a H-bomb over
the East Coast,
over North Carolina 50 years ago, we should start thinking about getting rid of weapons.
Let me just bring up this possibility. Let's say the sanctions really are hurting, and they apparently are, and the average man in the street, and the fact that Rouhani was elected is a statement of something, and let's say he's been given a certain amount of time, and if he doesn't bring back something, then the hardliners come back in force. Why not? What's the cost of at least exploring? And you're right. They are shipping arms to Syria. They are the great state sponsor of terrorism. Why not pursue it and see if they're willing to change?
Because, look, words shouldn't buy a concession from the United States.
What's the concession?
The concession is the President of the United States does what no president has done since the 1970s, and that sits down with the leader of Iran and treats him as an equal. What they need to do is, and that would be disheartening in the region. Our allies in the region would say, what in the heck are you doing? Words are cheap. Let's see some action from him, and not simply things that are going to play well on his home front, like letting a few political prisoners out of their vast archipelago of gulag prisons, but let's see them do something constructive about the number one issue we have, the nuclear issue, or the number 2 issue we have, which is their sponsorship of state terrorism through Hezbollah, and the number 3 issue, which is their active involvement in propping up the Assad regime. There's nothing that he has said or done other than charming words and pleasant things that gives us any confidence they're going to be any different. So he's got to demonstrate by action.
We've got a couple of minutes left, and one of us at this table is just back from Syria.